Hey there, it's Professor McDonald. In this video, we're going to talk about how to describe the local behavior of the function shown in the graph. And I want to point out that this really means that you're looking at what the function is doing when you get close to the asymptotes. So let's review what an asymptote is and identify the asymptotes for this example. So an asymptote, I like to use the example of an electric fence. It's an area of the graph of the coordinate plane that the function values will not touch or will avoid. Well, specifically vertical asymptotes. The function will never cross a vertical asymptote. With horizontal and oblique asymptotes, they usually don't cross, but they can. All right, but what we can see here is that we can draw these this vertical line and this horizontal line, and see that it appears that the function is never crossing or touching those lines. So what we want to do is take a closer look as x is approaching a certain value from each side of the asymptote, what's happening with the function. So in the first part here, notice that it says, let me just highlight this. It says that we want to see what's happening as x is approaching positive 2. So what's this negative up here? That's kind of in a weird spot. That may be new to a lot of us, this type of notation. That negative that comes after the 2 is telling us that we're approaching it from the left, from this side. And what we're interested in is the behavior of the function f of x, which is graphed in red. So what we want to do is we want to follow along, we want to follow along on the function graph from the negative side of x and see what happens to these y values as we get closer and closer to that vertical asymptote at x equals 2. And what we can see is that the function is going to decrease, continue getting lower and lower without bound. And so we say that the function is approaching negative infinity. Now, what about if we approach positive 2 from the positive side, from the right? So then we would be getting on the function graph from this side and following it along and seeing what kind of behavior we get as it gets very close to the vertical asymptote. Okay, the vertical asymptote at x equals 2, right? And so what we see is that the function is starting to increase. The y values are getting larger and larger without bound as we get close to that asymptote. So that's why the answer for the second part is positive infinity. Now the next part of this question says as x approaches positive infinity. Okay, so let's get back on the function and let's approach positive infinity for the x-axis going this way, right? So where the x values get larger and larger, what's happening with the function there? Well, the function, all the y values are getting very, very close to negative 4, where there is a horizontal asymptote, right, at y equals negative 4. So the function values are approaching negative 4. And as x approaches negative infinity, that's going this way, again we see that the y values are getting very close to negative 4.